Hello, this is Colin Harris from Knoware, continuing the series on hooking up SAS and Excel. This particular video is looking at the 9th technique in the series. As you can see from the list here, there are 11 techniques that are covered. All of the others are covered in other videos. This particular video is covering the 9th technique there, which is AMO, or the SAS add-in to Microsoft Office. What is this particular SAS add-in? Well, what it is an additional mechanism that SAS provide that gets added in as part of the Excel product. So that's right, we're still in Excel, and what it does is adds some components that allows it to talk through to SAS and do some things from the SAS environment. And that's explicitly two things. It allows Excel to pull data from SAS, and it allows SAS Logic to be run from Excel, but it goes through and runs that SAS Logic in the SAS environment. We're talking about SAS here, but the add-in to Microsoft Office also allows us capability for Word and PowerPoint, and now more recently in Outlook, which is interesting, from within your email system to be able to run SAS Logic. So how you see it and how you use it, there is a menu that's been added to the Excel environment. We'll see that in a minute. And what this is Excel now controlling this particular interaction. A lot of the previous techniques were SAS pushing things out to a file or pushing them to Excel. This is the other way around. Excel is controlling the interaction, and it's talking to SAS and pulling in what it needs from the SAS environment. In terms of what type of information can be transferred across, it's both of the techniques. So both data, so SAS tables, that data can be pulled into the Excel environment, or output. So if you run a particular procedure, Proc Tabulate, Proc Print, or whatever, the result of that output or that report that's created can go through into Excel as well, including graphics output. What's it good for? It's good for lots of stuff. This is one of my favorite techniques. I've got a couple of favorites. This is one, and you can do a whole lot of stuff. So best is just to show you some examples, really. But what it is, some of the things it's good for: a quick creation of an Excel spreadsheet. You just want to grab some data from a table within SAS and bring it in. It's great at that. You can update a pre-formatted Excel spreadsheet with some new data, so update that formatted spreadsheet. And also it's good at running SAS Logic from within Excel. So you may have someone who needs to do some things from within Excel. They're not an experienced SAS person. You don't want them to you don't want to expose them to the SAS environment. They have to get and use a new product like SAS, but they can use a lot of that SAS capability from within the Excel environment. Okay, so this shows what you see. We've gone into Excel, and you'll note at the top right there is a new tab within Excel saying SAS. That is the SAS add-in that's been added in to the Excel environment. And you see there's a range of things that you can do along here. We're just going to look at a couple, which should be easy enough to explain here. SAS data, so that enables us to go and grab SAS data and bring it into the Excel environment. And the next one along is tasks, so to be able to run tasks within the Excel environment, and that goes off and runs the enterprise guide, the same tasks that are in enterprise guide. Okay, so let's look at those in action. First of all, if we go and grab some data, choosing that top left option, it says where do you want the data from? Of course we want the cars table. That's what we've been working with all along, and that's enough. We can just say run from there, or there's some other options to allow us to control how many records come in, or where to put this in this worksheet and a new worksheet and so on. Run that, and there the data comes in very simply. So very simple, point and click, a couple of clicks, and you've got the resulting data into the Excel environment. Also nice, you'll see it's very nicely formatted, much nicer to look at than just the plain and simple from a lot of the other techniques. And by default it puts on the filters you see at the top of each column, because a lot of people like having filters on their Excel tables. Okay, so nice and simple to be able to bring data in to that environment. On to tasks, the second one along. If you are an Enterprise Guide user, you will recognise all of these. Virtually all the same tasks that you can do in Enterprise Guide, a user within Excel has access to those as well. In case you get worried, that's something you can control, and you can limit what users actually see. You can go and do that as part of your administration within the SAS environment and say, people coming from Excel, I only want them to see these particular tasks. But there we go, looking through all the tasks. If we choose Describe, we have got all those same tasks that are within Enterprise Guide. Listing data, list report wizard, one-way frequency, summary statistics, etc. Another thing you can do when you're bringing data in is create a pivot table. Really, really nice. Rather than you having to go and do the work to do this, it is part of the add-in from SAS that you can simply define what you want, define the pivot table as part of a wizard, and in comes the resulting data in a pivot table form. Very nice indeed. And there's an example pivot table that we created in that way. Graphs, just another one of the tasks here is the graph tasks. So again, out of all the different styles of graphs we can do within SAS, we can run a particular graph and that result comes into Excel as well. And of course Excel has a lot of graphics capabilities, but SAS has got some specific things that Excel does not do or does not do well, and you may want to utilize that from within the Excel environment to use SAS graphics. Right, so what are the advantages of this technique? Very powerful. As you've seen, we've done a whole range of things. We didn't cover everything you can do there. One thing I didn't mention was the ability to run stored processes. So you can create your own logic, some specific logic that is created and packaged up as a SAS process, and that a stored process rather, and that can be used by someone within the Excel environment to run that particular logic from within Excel. Pre-formatted, yes, we can update pre-formatted Excel spreadsheets. Update, refresh, yes, update existing spreadsheets that already exist. Running SAS tasks and stored processes, talked about that already. And as we saw in the example, we can directly create a pivot table with an easy-to-use wizard. What is the downside there? You do need some additional products than some of the other techniques, or some of the other techniques just require base SAS. This requires the BI server environment, and you need that for Enterprise Guide anyway. So if you're running Enterprise Guide, then you should be fine to be running the SAS add-in to Microsoft Office. It doesn't need the full BI server range of products. The part it needs is SAS integration technologies, but that's typically bundled up as part of BI server, is the way how most organizations get that these days. Another downside is this is not controlled by SAS, it's controlled by the Excel side, and that's has a number of advantages in itself, but what it doesn't allow you to do is, if you want to create a whole automated suite of SAS programs that go through and read in data and update a whole lot of different Excel spreadsheets, because it's controlled by Excel rather than being controlled by SAS. Okay, so what do you need? As I mentioned on the previous slide, you need SAS BI Server or integration technologies, so it needs those additional products. You also need to put the appropriate client onto the desktop, and that's no big deal. It's just a matter of installing that, but that is an additional thing that you need to do. And just repeating what I've already said, if you've got Enterprise Guide on it and it's talking to an underlying SAS server, so you've got that client server model set up, you're more than likely to have this capability licensed already and even set up for you to be ready to go. Thanks for watching this video, which is part of a series on hooking up SAS and Excel. The full PowerPoint presentation is available at knoware.co.nz, which includes references to good papers that provide more details.